I've passed the DELE exam on the C1 level in a year after I had started learning Spanish. And you also can do that. In this video, I'll share my experience how I managed to learn Spanish from scratch to C1 in just 1 year, and I will tell you step by step what you should do to achieve the same result in Spanish or in any other language. Let's not waste time anymore and get down to business. First of all, I want to say that I have never learned Spanish before I entered the university. And it was not one of those fancy unis like Oxford or Stanford, it was just a humble university in my home city of Nizhny Novgorod in Russia. Yeah, I'm actually from Russia, but I don't live there anymore. So at the university I had basically a couple of options on what languages to study: French plus Portuguese or English plus Spanish. Also, there were some other odd options which I really feared a lot. Well, one day I'll probably make a video about it, but not now. My English was obviously better than my French, which I also studied at school, so I decided to study Spanish and continue mastering English. We started to learn how to read and write and all the basic stuff you do when you're just starting to learn a new language. And the first semester, the first half of a year, we were studying just the basics. Spanish pronunciation rules are not that difficult, it's not like in French, so that the first part, learning the most basic things, was a rather easy and fun one. After the first half of a year, I probably got A1 or something like that, and I wasn't expecting that in a half a year more or less I'd pass the C1 exam, but things change very fast. One terrible thing occurred in my life. I basically realized that sooner or later I might need to move to another country, not because I want to, but just because of the situation. It's a very personal thing and I don't know if it would be interesting for you or not, but just imagine, I was in a situation that in some time, maybe a year or so, I would need to move from my home country. Not to another country, but from my home country. I guess you know what I mean here. And I started to think of ways how I could do that. Obviously, I needed some occupation, which I didn't possess. I was 19 years old and I needed languages. From the very childhood, I knew that foreign languages are the thing that bring you freedom. Freedom of choosing the place to live, of choosing a job, freedom of not being tied to one place on the globe. So I invented a situation where I could go to live in Spain. You know, beautiful country, great food, pleasant climate and all that stuff. I was in Spain just once with my mom when I was 12 years old or so, and I knew very few things about the country. It was a totally imaginative idea that I could go to Spain and live and work there, but I became totally obsessed with that idea. And I started to learn Spanish really hard, so I not only did my homework and all the stuff at the university, but also read a lot in Spanish, did grammar exercises, etc. But very soon I realized that I could not learn Spanish on the level I needed to speak fluently without talking to natives. So during my summer vacations I decided to volunteer in Spain. That was rather cheap because I didn't need to pay for accommodation and food. So I only needed a visa, a two-way ticket and just a bit of money to get to the place where I would be volunteering. That summer I spent 2 months near Valencia working in avocado land. It wasn't hard work, I was just keeping the avocado trees tidy. So if there were some sticks on the floor or some other litter, I was supposed to throw them away. Nothing hard. But I also communicated a lot with the family of the avocado landowner and the locals, and in 2 months I really upgraded my Spanish a lot. I went to Spain having a weak B1 maybe, A2, something like that, but I returned home with solid B2 already. I didn't stop learning new grammar, but real-life conversations helped me a lot to overcome the language barrier. After I returned home, I enrolled in the DELE exam in November 2018. DELE is the Spanish alternative for IELTS or TOEFL. It deciphers like Diploma de Español como lengua extranjera or Diploma in Spanish as a foreign language. Almost as in other exams like that, you opt for a particular level from A1 to C2. If you successfully pass each part of the exam, grammar, speaking, reading and listening, it means that you pass the whole exam. I decided to enroll for C1 level because C2 was too much for me. I definitely knew that, but B2 I didn't feel that it was challenging enough. I was 99% convinced that I would pass B2, and besides, to work in Spain, C1 looked much more substantial. So I started the preparation for the exam in early autumn, and in November I had my chance to change a lot of things in my life. I need to say that these 2 months from September to early November I studied really hard with all the dedication to pass the exam. I worked a lot on daily preparation books, doing the tasks that I was supposed to have on the real exam. And finally, in November, on the day of the exam, I got to the class and realized that it was it. The day I was preparing for almost a year finally came, and now I have to do my best during the exam. And frankly speaking, I didn't even mention how the time passed because there were a lot of tasks in a very short period of time. So I didn't even have enough time to check all my answers. I just finished one task and got started with another. After a short break, we had speaking. Everything was in a very comfortable and relaxed atmosphere, no stress, no anxiety, just you and your interlocutor. When I came out of the Institute of Cervantes, where the exam was held, I wasn't quite sure if I passed or not, so the only thing I needed was patience, and I was waiting till January of the next year, and then the results came. I passed. Everything was fine, and I got my certificate only next summer. Fortunately, my worst dreams didn't come true, and I wasn't pushed to leave my country at that time. So I got my diploma and started to figure out what I should do next. But that is totally another story. So what's the profit for you from my story? How can you learn Spanish or any other language to C1 in such a short time? Actually, I needed a little bit more than a year because I had the exam in November and I had started learning Spanish in September, but still it's not a very long period of time. The first thing is that Spanish is not a very hard language to learn. If I tried to do the same thing with Chinese or Japanese, more likely I would fail because learning Chinese from 0 to C1 in a year is a really very challenging task. So choosing the right language is already a half success. If you speak French or Italian as a native speaker, Spanish to C1 in a year will be something extremely easy for you. But as long as I am not a native speaker of any Latin language, my native language is Russian, it was a bit challenging. The second thing that helped me a lot was my background in English and French. There are some words that are similar in Spanish and French or in English and French, so it was already a great help for me to study fast. Obviously, I don't know all the words in English and in French, my French is really very basic, but at least it was something. So if you know some similar language with some similar pronunciation patterns or words, not necessarily as a native speaker but also as a language learner, it will be a big help for you. Thirdly, I was in a very uncomfortable situation at that time, related to leaving the country or probably not leaving. So I understood that there were just two options for me. I either learn Spanish and pass the freaking exam, or the consequences might be totally horrible, like I could live in terrible conditions working I don't know where, or living the life that absolutely didn't suit me. So I was in some kind of a dire strait, some desperate situation, so I needed to do something to make life better. And thank God I actually did that, because now I am recording this video for you, and that's what I wanted to do nearly all my conscious life. Fourthly, the trip to Spain really helped me to build confidence in my knowledge. I understood that I already could talk to natives, they talked back to me, and these were real-life conversations and not just reading books and learning grammar. I already could speak, and it really meant a lot to me. So if you have the slightest opportunity to live for some time in the country language of which you are currently studying, do it. You don't even need a lot of money. There are lots of internships, volunteer programs and stuff like that, so there are a lot of opportunities to choose from. Just don't be afraid that something can go wrong. You know, sometimes wrong is right what you need at the moment. And the fifth thing is about working hard. Even though you know some similar language, you have dedication to learn the language, you have the opportunity to travel, without persistence, it's not possible to achieve C1 in a year or so. It's not a very long period of time, and C1 is an advanced level where you are able to talk on different topics, so that journey is highly unlikely to be a piece of cake. But nothing is impossible. Just set a goal and move towards it. Everything will be alright. I believe in you. If you still have any doubts, you can take a couple of private lessons in our online school, English with Nat. My wife Natalie is in charge of the English classes because she studied English linguistics. I'm more than happy to help you with Spanish and probably with some English also, so check the link to our Instagram in the description below and write to us straight away if you have any questions. And see you in the next video. Bye!